Welcome back to Dow Twang. I'm Dave. Thanks for everybody that signed up recently. I've sent out some emails. You know, Patreon. There's so much stuff that the creators don't have um, dominion over. It's not like YouTube where you can. It's similar in some ways, but it's like I don't have any account information or anything. Like it's just like you know, you know, Jim joined on this day or whatever, and then I just try to like stay on top of it, like make sure I thank Jim, send him an email or something. And there's a link in there that we can most of you I've messaged with back and forth, but it's not like I can't get in and see like just sort of like everybody's. There's not like a profile type thing in it, right? That's more like other social media stuff. So no excuses there. I just want to make sure that I thank everybody. So occasionally I do sort of an outreach like this, where it's like, if I haven't contacted you for some reason, thank you. Hopefully you're watching this right now or will be soon. Okay. And we're growing. We've got, oh, I don't know, I think over 100 uh, uh, patrons now, members now. So having a good time. I really enjoy the comments. It's like people are getting good use out of this, and it seems to most folks I recognize that are using this and the YouTube channel, and hopefully that's working out for everybody. So today we've got a laid back piece here in E. That this is really about like I guess playing by ear, and we hear that term. We've heard it our whole life. It means different things to different people. And I noticed a lot of times people that aren't musicians use the term a lot. Oh, do you play by ear, or are you a student of music theory or something? Or people that are starting out, and to me that phrase means something different these days than it did originally. I guess originally for me, I thought it meant just kind of like I just listen to records and I copy them, and I don't really have a theoretical game plan going on. I just kind of learn the licks and then I generalize them to other songs and things or whatever. And most of the stuff that I learned early on was either through that method or from um, people, older kids usually, and sometimes some friends of my dad and my brother and older brother. They're just showing me stuff, right? So there was some visual learning there too, but a lot of it was done just by listening. Um, So today we have the benefit of YouTube and like all these ways of sharing, every aspect of this, and it's wonderful. I wish I'd had access to all that way back then. Um, but there were benefits also to having to listen real closely, right? So today we've got a progression here that a lot of times I'll do a progression that stays in sort of a neat diatonic, group of chords from a key, and using the chords that are naturally derived from that 7-note scale and so forth. That just makes things easy to talk about certain topics. Well, in this one, we're going to step out. Some of the chords will not fit into the regular E major family of chords, right? Here's a good example. The first change in it is E. Say that's the one chord, and then it goes right to the C sharp dominant 7. Okay, so there's a C sharp in the E major scale, the regular formula. It's the sixth tone of the scale, right? But it's usually, if you use the diatonic bucket of notes, those 7 notes from that scale, to form all of the triads and extensions, you would the chord that would be derived through that regular process would be a minor, a C sharp minor, or C sharp minor 7. Um, so we know that there's going to be some adjustments when we're improvising over this, right? Um, and we can look at it as like a chord tone adjustment or something, but we're really gonna work on just letting our ear, when we get to a certain point, you just know that there's a different quality about that chord. It's not the one that just fits in with all the other notes, right? But it does fit in with sort of the bass line aspect of it. That's the first example. Then there's another chord, a couple chords later. It goes E, C sharp 7, A. Well, that chord would be found right in the diatonic key. That'd be the major 4 chord of E major. But then it goes to C. Now, there's not even a C bass note in that E major scale, right? Because the scale it skips right over it. That's right. It's like the 5 is B in E. Then that 6, we already said the bass note is C sharp. So that's, that's different. So, do we try to figure out, every ism and asthma of that before we start trying to play over it? We could. But let's say you went to band practice or something and somebody, in the group wrote a song and this is the progression. I kind of doubt they're going to want to stop and have a discussion about, whether their C chord is in the key or not, or whether it's some sort of substitution or modulation. In some bands that would be, a normal topic, right? Maybe you would want to stop and talk about all that. But a lot of times we could already be playing the song, right? This is the pragmatic, practical aspect of what we're talking about today. For the main part, we're going to be able to stay in E, but we're going to have to make some adjustments. So here's the progression. And jot it down if you need to, right? But I'm not going to put the chords up on the screen this time. It's not because I'm lazy. It's not that hard to do, but it's because this is the first element of this. Where just trust you. Just take a few minutes. And when you do that, you're not, when you have that chord on these backing tracks and stuff on YouTube, like just pop just right there all the time, it's helpful. And, I like that sometimes, especially if it's a bunch of jazzy chords or something, it really is hard to keep track of them. But something like this, take the time. If you're on this channel and this Patreon page, you're using these as lessons, right? You're not just spending like 2 minutes on here to learn a lick and then forgetting about it, right? So that's part of it today. Here it is. I'm not even going to really talk about them. Follow the bass line, see what type of chord it is, jot them down. That's going to do you so much more good in your overall learning. Okay. Now there is one difference in there that sometimes the second time around it's exactly the same, except that after the A, instead of going to C, it goes from A, it changes it to a minor version of A, and it's specifically it's a minor 7 form of that A. Okay. So that one you might that might help you out to give you a little hint on that one. But if you're looking, you're like, I can't tell where your fingers are. Is that major or minor? Don't go there. If it's major or minor if you test it out and play it, right? And that's what you want to really get into, a trusting, practice with your ear like that. Now let's have some fun. Let's turn this backing track on. We already said we're in E. So one of the first things we're going to do that's pretty obvious is just try out this E scale, E major scale. Okay, well, we're going to get by pretty good with that, right? E major pentatonic, the next thing. Okay, now, doesn't sound like we're playing any bad notes, really. So that's good, but there's some sweet stuff going on there that we could really go after. I had to wait for it to come around, right? You see what I'm going after is that when it changes to that C or the A minor, depending on which time around it is, that G note sounds really good. And you can do a little bend there. It's like the blues note in that E major pentatonic. So major. Now, what was that right there? Almost a pure run of minor pentatonic, right? So we just did all that E major stuff and that E major pentatonic. But sometimes when it went, we were putting in that little quarter bend or that half bend, I guess, in that position to get to that G, which is either going to be the fifth of your C, right, or the flat 7 of your A minor 7, and that sounds cool. So either way, they're interchangeable because they're cool chord tones for each one of those. So that's kind of cool, right? You know that that simple adjustment to your game plan is really going to pay off on that note either way. And you can bend it, you can play the note. What's interesting is that that note also, in the context of the E pentatonic, it's more of a minor pentatonic note. Okay, so a lot of the stuff I did in that intro really exploited that. It's kind of, going from a real major sounding pentatonic lick to a minor one. And it doesn't have to be just over that chord, right? Because that will work kind of across, this whole thing. It's kind of that 2-5-1 change at the end is kind of a blues type turnaround, right? So at first you might not hear this as being blues, but that minor blues scale will have a lot of places where it'll rub just right in there, okay? And you really have to trust your ear and explore it, okay? And I'm going to give you some ideas here of some sequences that'll kind of get you into this. In the intro, I think I went, That was the first kind of position or area that I used, right? That's like an E major. Then I went right to, okay, now that's that minor pentatonic note third for E. So I went, okay, I went slow on that so you can back that up and check that again. Then I end on the major third again. Now, a lot of those notes, when I come up here to this position, it's kind of the same business. It's kind of an overlapping of those pentatonic positions. But listen to this with the track. This is kind of a good way to kick it off. All right. Now, when I look at that, what I just showed you, it's more than just a way to kick it off, as I said a moment ago. It's really the routine, because whether you look at this in either of these two ways, one way would be like the alternating kind of major and minor pentatonic stuff for the E, right? And taking note of like where that G, the minor third of the E, um, happens to be chord tones of the C triad or the A minor 7, right? Depending on which time around it is. Right? Those chords are made of virtually the same stuff. That's why that works out so well. So whether you're looking at it that way or whether you're focusing more on like, chord by chord. Oh, when I get to the C, I'm playing a, C triad or whatever. You see how they're the both viewpoints are valid, right? So it's just kind of what makes more sense to you. But the most important thing is that you let go of that thinking after a while and you let your hand just make that adjustment. And a great way to do that is to stay right in this little pocket, I'll show you, and really experiment with whether you're bending this a whole bend or a half, like this. See where we are. Then, you can go right to this kind of shape 1. Okay. Now, keep it simple. If you stick to that program there, and see how sometimes when I'm coming down, I'm landing on the major third. If I go, I'll come down in a minor, same thing up here. That's that, distinctive sound of returning to the major third of the E there, okay? don't overthink this stuff. I tried to, I gave you some explanations in there because I know that that's part of it that everybody enjoys and wants to know also. But take that right there before the break when I put in the little edit there, right before that sequence of the two or three positions there and using that uh, you choosing and the major third or the minor third of the E there, that's the real where the rubber hits the road with this one. That'll take you a long way. Go slow and leave some comments on this. I think this piece, this progression, I finally think I found something that really sets you up to make these kinds of small adjustments in your kind of theory that sound huge. Right, and so like a Dear Prudence, or a progression like that has a lot of those tight knit changes and a few secondary dominant chords mixed in there and things or whatever. So I'm really going to try to keep exploring this for you because I think it it really puts you in that space where you can, you know, uh, explore it in your own way using your ear. So get the progression down. I'll put a few minutes of this loop down below for you and have fun with it. Let me know how it goes. We might do another one using this exact progression, actually. This is, get going on this and then give me some feedback, about how you're doing with it. Make sure that you got the basic stuff going on with it. All right? Appreciate you. Talk to you next time.